I'm Jim LeBrecht, co-director, co-producer of CRIP Camp. I'm a older white guy with long curly hair, a gray goatee. I've got a black shirt on with little white dots on it. Behind me is a red wall with some posters on it.
I'm Mary Lampson. I'm the co-editor of CRIP Camp, working with Eileen Meyer and Andy Gersh. I'm an older white woman with gray hair, and I'm wearing a black, I guess it's a shirt with a little bit of purple on it. And I'm in a room, which is my cutting room, which is full of posters and has white walls.
Yeah, hi, I'm Nicole Newnham. I'm the co-director and co-producer of CRIP Camp with Jim LeBrecht. And I am a middle-aged white woman with blondish brown hair down to my shoulders, round glasses, inspired by Judy Humans in CRIP Camp. And I am sitting next to a bookcase in my home in Oakland, California.
What, you want me to tell them what happened?
So as we opened here, the People's Video Theater, who was this video group that happened to meet everybody from Camp Jeanette at a gas station, shows up, and the first thing they see is that the camp is in disarray because 2 counselors have gotten the crabs, and we've all been quarantined to our bunks and about to shower with this wonderful Quell shampoo.
Go over there.
What's over there?
My girl.
Have you seen her today?
Just from over here.
Have you talked to her?
Not really, just from across here.
We're all quarantined.
Yeah. It's our first week anniversary today.
It's your first weekend anniversary and you can't even talk to her.
That's right.
We loved the scene from the very beginning. It captures so much about the community and spirit of the camp. And it also is so iconoclastic. It's not at all what you expect when you think about what's going to be happening, at a camp for the handicapped in the 1970s. And we started actually thinking that we would start the entire film with this scene, but it ultimately became clear to us that what the scene represented was the formation of a bonded, egalitarian community. And going through something together. And so we ended up repositioning the scene so that we're sort of building towards that, and it becomes a kind of critical step on the road to the journey that the audience goes on along with Jim.
I got those poor old crab blues, yeah.
And I think another reason that this scene is sort of in the middle of this section of the film is the audience needs to know these people in some way as individuals. So this is a group of people that you're introduced to gradually over the course of the first, 5-6 minutes. And so that the audience is really knows them and cares about them. And I think if you start with this scene, it would be just so sort of shocking and disorienting that it would actually not draw the audience into the film.
Incredible!
How would you like to have somebody wash your balls? Right, I can do it myself for me. So, I don't really care. But there are other people who can, and they have to have it done for them.
There's a moment in the scene here with Levy where the tenor of the scene shifts, and it's very intentional. The music shifts, the mood shifts. And what we're kind of doing is we're bursting the bubble. We thought of this as a really important moment in the narrative where we had created the bubble of camp. And at this moment, we're kind of puncturing the bubble a bit, and we're starting to see how the campers are dealing with the outside world.
I think actually what happened out of it is that people were having fun. We were working together as a whole unit, washing and cleaning and showering and doing things that we've never done before. And it's really a very different kind of a thing. And I have to go shower some people. I'll see you later.
It's just so sort of loving. And there's a line in it where Judy Human says, it's the first time I had to get used to somebody other than my mother taking care of me. And you just feel that in the way that the campers and the counselors are reacting to one another in that swimming pool. It's just something very, very beautiful. And that was something that I think we saw right away in that footage.
There were people there that would help me get dressed and undressed and go to the bathroom and shower, get in and out of the pool.
And again, I talk about humor, or I think about humor, the attitude of Paul, who had multiple disabilities going on, modeled for me this wonderful way of just being. He was just like, oh, well, and it helped me feel better about myself.
There's a loose, kind of disorganized, flowing sense of community in that footage that the People's Video Theater did such a beautiful job of capturing. And it couldn't be overcut. We had to kind of feel that. And I think the crabs epidemic gave us an opportunity to do that. But at the same time, it's so intentionally cut together. And one of the beautiful things that, Mary, you did was just build in these characters that we kind of see throughout the film over and over again. We don't just see them, but we hear their names. So even though they're minor characters, they're just people at the camp. And they never become a story point or part of the narrative, but they become a part of what starts to feel like a really multidimensional world that we're immersed in. And so it boggles my mind, actually, the extent to which you could take this old footage and really make it feel like a present day immersive experience.
Back home, I had to be careful who I said things to, because that was a way of surviving. There were survival skills that you had. I had to be very, very, very careful not to be disrespectful, not to look a white man in his eye. You had to do those things. You had to be mindful of that.
So at the end of Lionel's discussion of that, comparing the discrimination that he experienced as a Black man in the South to the discrimination that he saw people with disabilities facing when they went into town to get an ice cream, say,
I got so much pain, I don't know if I'm really blue. 'Cause I got the one time blues. Alright.
Are you ready? Alright. We're here now. We're gonna talk about parents, and what kind of, how they bug us or how you like them, whatever it is. Maybe we should start off with overprotectiveness, which I really hate. Does anybody want to start out?
My parents are great, but sometimes I hate them because they're too great and they're too protective of me.
which is really powerful because it's a scene that literally was directed by the campers in 1971, right, Jim?
Yeah, when the People's Video Theater came and taught us the first time, they said, look, here's who we are. Help us make a film about your camp. And so one of the things we asked was, we'd like to make a film about video. That was in our lexicon, a film about our parents and how they're overprotective and such. And so this scene, which we call Message to Parents, is a result of them asking us, giving us agency like we didn't really experience from people before.
Well, some of the things like just everybody else depends on parents for like laundry and stuff, but like she's the person that orders special supplies when I'll need it and stuff. And if I'm in a position where I'm not able to do something, like she's gonna have to do it. And so like if you keep on bugging your...
This was a scene that the moment we saw it, Jim and I knew that we would be building the whole first part of the film that was set at the camp up to this moment, because it feels like a moment of transformation, and it feels like a moment where the community at camp has gelled and people have moved into a kind of a new way of thinking and being. This scene didn't really work until we had all the other scenes building up to it working such that it felt like that evolution towards a community had happened. But one of the things that I really love about this scene is how, Mary, you paid such incredible attention to it.
Yeah, I think in the beginning you didn't have a sense of the physical space, or it was sort of confusing because the focus was primarily sort of on Jim and then obviously on Nancy and then Steve at the end. But it was hard to sort of see the whole group. So we just put a couple of shots in so you really understood that it was a circle of people sitting around a table having this conversation.
It feels egalitarian, right? I mean, it feels like the spirit of the kind of conversation that they're having, where they would listen to Nancy. And that was something that became really important later on in the film when we go to the 504 sit-in and we see that same kind of ethos and set of values really expressed in the sit-in and what made it successful and what made the laws change. And that all had to be communicated in this scene.
That's it?
You know, when we first watched this scene, we're like everybody else there. We're not quite sure. We really don't know what Nancy is saying. And then we realized that it would be interesting for our audience to have the same experience, to be uncomfortable, maybe not knowing what she's saying. Because, you know, we have done subtitles for a lot of other people who had disability affected speech, and that some folks would find hard to understand. And it was the right decision, I think.
Yeah, when we showed this footage early on to people, they said there's no way you can put this in the film. It's going to make people too uncomfortable. And so one of the beautiful things I think about the way it's edited is that you see these kind of like loving, really attentive looks from multiple campers as Nancy's talking. And by the time you get to this scene, because of the way that sense of community has been constructed, you have the patience as a viewer to know already that you should be respectful and listen, and that Nancy is saying something important and worth waiting for. I think because of the way the scene is constructed, the viewer is actually going through a transformational experience of having the patience to listen to Nancy and then learning through the cooperative, collaborative spirit of the community.
You know, she's saying, you know, whatever I'm doing, she is there. Basically, I can't get away from, I have no time just with myself.
And then what Steve is able to do in his translation is basically just crystallize. He doesn't say, and because her mom is there, you know, she never has a moment, but he's taking that idea and just condensing it into 3 or 4 amazing, you know, what words. So it's just like because he obviously knows exactly what she's talking about.
And I love the kind of just tenderness of the kind of feeling around the table from everybody once she's spoken. It really is like, I think people realize that something important just happened.
Really, the disabled community, I think that, well, and I say the word community really specifically because I think that what's so important to us is that we do get a chance to come together. And that perhaps that isn't any different from any other group, but that, you know, that often we are separated. We're isolated, especially back then we were. So being able to come together at this camp and to learn from each other and experience and to love each other was rather rare.